Leo sat by the window of his cabin, staring out into the quiet forest. The tall trees stretched high into the sky, their branches swaying gently in the cool breeze. The world outside was calm, almost peaceful, but inside the cabin, Leo felt a restlessness he couldn't shake off. He had always enjoyed the solitude, the peacefulness of living far away from the busy world. But today, something felt different, something he couldn't explain. Suddenly, the sound of a crash broke through the silence. It was a loud, thunderous noise that echoed through the forest, shaking the windows. Leo's heart skipped a beat. He shot up from his chair and rushed to the door. Was it an animal? Or maybe a falling tree? His mind raced as he stepped out into the cool evening air. The forest around him was still, too still. His eyes scanned the trees, but all he could see were the dark shadows of the thick foliage. Then, through the trees, he spotted something. A streak of light, followed by a cloud of smoke, hurtling towards the ground. It was coming closer, fast. Leo froze, his heart racing. He didn't know what it was, but instinct told him to run toward it. He didn't hesitate. As he made his way through the thick underbrush, the sound of the crash grew louder, and soon he found himself standing in a small clearing. There, in front of him, was a large object, half buried in the earth, with smoke rising from its broken hull. Leo took a cautious step forward, his eyes widening in disbelief. It wasn't a tree that had fallen. It was a ship, a spacecraft. And from the looks of it, it had crashed. Leo's mind raced as he tried to make sense of the situation. His first instinct was to turn back, to run back to the safety of his cabin. But something about the wreckage, something about the way it had landed, told him that there was life in that ship. And if there was life, that meant someone might need help. Without thinking, he took another step toward the wreckage. The smoke was clearing now, and he could see the shape of the ship more clearly. It was a strange design, sleek and smooth, unlike anything he'd ever seen. It seemed almost futuristic, as if it had come from another world. As he neared the ship, a soft groan sounded from inside. Leo froze in place, straining his ears. Someone was alive. His heart pounded in his chest as he approached the wreckage. He couldn't let anyone die out here alone, not when there was a chance to help. He crouched beside the ship and called out softly, "Hello? Is anyone in there?" His voice felt strange in the stillness of the forest. There was a long pause before a soft voice responded. "Help me," the voice whispered, weak and strained. Leo didn't hesitate. He scrambled to the side of the ship, searching for an opening. His hands were shaking, but he finally found a way in. Carefully, he crawled inside the wreckage. The interior was dim, lit only by the faint glow of damaged lights. And there, lying on the cold floor of the ship, was a figure. At first, Leo thought it was a woman, but something was different. Her skin was pale, a soft blue with a faint purplish tint, unlike anything he'd ever seen before. Her hair was long, flowing like silk, a mix of silver and light blue, framing a face that seemed delicate, almost ethereal. She was unconscious, but her chest rose and fell with each shallow breath. "Hey, are you all right?" Leo said, his voice filled with concern. He knelt beside her and gently touched her shoulder. She stirred slightly, her eyes fluttering open. For a moment, she just stared at him, confusion clouding her gaze. Then her eyes widened as she seemed to realize something. "You," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You are human." Leo blinked, taken aback. Yeah, I am." What are you?" He couldn't help but ask, though the question sounded foolish even to his own ears. What kind of person would crash on his planet in a ship like that? Her eyes searched his face, as if weighing something in her mind. After a long pause, she spoke again, but her voice was filled with an unfamiliar sadness. "I cannot return back, human, until you've claimed me with love, not just touch." Leo's heart skipped a beat. What did she mean by that? Claimed you with love? he repeated, confused. The woman's eyes closed as she took a shallow breath. "It's the way of my people," she murmured. "Only true love can give me the strength to return. Without it, I cannot go home." Leo had no idea what she was talking about. He didn't know anything about her people or their customs. But he couldn't help the way his heart felt a little heavier with each passing second. There was something about her, something that drew him in, something he couldn't explain. He looked at her again, unsure of what to do. She was still hurt, still weak, and despite everything, she was clearly desperate. But what could he do? He didn't know her, and the idea of love, real love, seemed like a lot to ask, especially with someone so foreign to him. "I'll help you," he said, not knowing why, but knowing he had to. "But first, let's get you out of here. We'll figure this out." The woman nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Thank you, human." Her voice was soft, but there was something in it that made Leo believe that, somehow, her fate had already been tied to his. Leo helped her up carefully, supporting her weight as she leaned against him. As they made their way out of the wreckage, Leo couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Whatever was happening here, whatever journey lay ahead, he was about to be part of it, whether he was ready or not. Leo helped Elira walk slowly through the dense forest, her steps unsteady as she leaned on him for support. The journey back to his cabin felt much longer than usual, as if the weight of the moment pressed down on them both. Elira was still weak from the crash, but Leo could feel the warmth of her presence, the way she seemed to breathe in sync with him as they moved through the trees. "You're not from around here, are you?" Leo asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. He glanced at Elira, her delicate face slightly turned away, as if unsure whether she wanted to share more. Her skin, a soft blue with a faint purplish tint, seemed to glow slightly in the dim light filtering through the trees. Her hair, silver with hints of blue, flowed gently down her back. She looked almost otherworldly, and Leo found it difficult to take his eyes off her. Elira hesitated before answering, her voice soft, yet strong. "No, I'm not. I come from a distant planet, far from here." She paused, as if weighing how much to reveal. "I was sent on a mission, but something went wrong. My ship, it crashed." Her eyes flickered with the memory, a mix of pain and confusion crossing her face. "I've been stranded here ever since." Leo nodded, his mind racing with questions. "What kind of mission? And why can't you go back until, well, until I've claimed you with love?" His voice faltered slightly, unsure of how to phrase his next words. Her request still felt strange, something he couldn't fully grasp. Elira's gaze turned distant as she spoke, her voice quiet, but there was a deep sadness in her tone. "My people, we are not like humans. Our species bonds through love. It is the foundation of everything we are, of everything we do. Without it, we lose our strength. I was chosen to return to my people, but I cannot do so unless I am claimed with love, not just touch. It's part of my culture, part of what makes us who we are." Leo listened carefully, trying to understand. He had never heard of anything like this before. Love is a requirement for survival. It was a lot to take in, and he wasn't sure how he felt about it. He was a simple man, raised on Earth, where love was more of a feeling than a matter of life and death. But Elira's words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. "I don't know what you mean by claimed," Leo said slowly, glancing down at her. "But you're saying, love is a kind of power for you." Elira nodded, her eyes meeting his for the first time since they had left the wreckage. "Yes, it is. Without love, we cannot thrive. We become weak. But when we are truly loved, it gives us strength. It helps us heal, both physically and mentally. It's a bond that transcends everything." She seemed to hesitate before adding, "It's the only way I can return to my people." Leo thought about this for a moment, processing her words. His heart was heavy with uncertainty. He had never felt a bond so intense, so immediate. But the idea of being the one to give her this power, It was overwhelming. They reached the cabin in silence. Leo helped Elira inside, where the warmth of the fire crackling in the fireplace greeted them. He carefully settled her on the couch, making sure she was comfortable. She looked exhausted, her eyes closed as she rested, but there was a quiet grace about her, even in her vulnerability. Leo moved around the cabin, gathering a few things to help her recover. He brought her some water and made her a simple meal, trying to offer some sense of normalcy. As he did, he found his thoughts constantly drifting back to Elira and her strange, compelling request. He had never been one to believe in destiny, but something about her story felt real. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was meant to help her. Elira looked up as he returned with a tray of food. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice warm, though still tired. "You've been kind to me, even though you don't understand. I owe you my life." Leo set the tray down on the table in front of her and sat beside her. "You don't owe me anything," he said. I just want to help. But this whole thing is a lot to take in. Love, being claimed. It's all so foreign to me." Elira's eyes softened, and she gave him a small, tired smile. "I know it's a lot, but what I'm asking for is not just about affection. It's about connection. True connection. It's something that will make me strong again, something that will allow me to return home." Leo stared at her for a moment, feeling the weight of her words. His mind was full of confusion and doubt, but his heart was pulled toward her in a way he couldn't explain. He had always been a logical person, but this wasn't about logic. This was about something deeper, something that felt beyond the world he knew. "You've been through a lot," Leo said quietly, leaning back in his chair. "I don't know if I can give you what you need, Elira, but I'll try. I'll help you however I can." Elira's eyes brightened, a flicker of hope shining through the exhaustion. "That's all I can ask for," she whispered. "Thank you." As the fire crackled in the background, Leo sat in silence, his thoughts swirling around the strange, powerful bond forming between them. He wasn't sure what would happen next, but he knew one thing. This journey, whatever it was, had only just begun. The days following Elira's arrival were filled with a strange mix of quiet moments and growing tension. Leo had never imagined his life would change so suddenly. What had started as a quiet, solitary existence in the forest had turned into something entirely different. He found himself caring for an alien woman, someone who claimed she needed his love to survive, to return home. The weight of her words hung over him constantly, and as much as he tried to push it aside, he couldn't escape the feeling that something profound was happening between them. As the days went by, Elira's strength gradually returned. She became more active, though she still seemed fragile. Leo found himself helping her with small tasks, cooking meals, and even talking to her about her world and her people. Each conversation left him more intrigued, more curious. There was so much he didn't understand, but one thing was clear. Elira was no ordinary woman. One afternoon, as they sat together by the fire, Elira spoke again of the bond between her people. "You must understand," she said, her voice steady but soft. "My species has always believed that love is the foundation of everything. It is not just an emotion. It is a force. Without it, we lose our connection to the world around us. Without love, we cannot survive." Leo listened closely, trying to grasp the depth of what she was saying. "But you're saying, if I don't love you the way you need, you can't return home." Elira nodded, her eyes downcast as if she carried the weight of this truth every day. "Yes, without your love, I remain weak. I cannot heal. I cannot return to my people. I will be stuck here, unable to fulfill my purpose." Leo's heart tightened as he watched her, her expression full of sorrow. He couldn't help but feel sympathy for her, but the idea of love, true love, felt like a huge step. Was he ready for something so deep, something so different? Over the next few days, Elira's condition seemed to improve. She grew stronger, more capable of standing and moving around the cabin. She even began helping Leo with chores, though he could see she still struggled with certain tasks. But despite her improvement, there was an unspoken tension in the air. The question of love, of truly claiming her, still hung between them, unaddressed. One evening, as Leo prepared dinner, Elira approached him. Her eyes were serious, focused, and for the first time, she seemed determined. "Leo," she said, her voice steady, "we need to face this. You must decide if you can give me what I need. I cannot stay here forever. I cannot live without the love that will allow me to return home." Leo set down the knife he was holding and turned to face her. His mind raced. He had spent so much time thinking about her words, about the weight of her request. He wanted to help her, but what if he wasn't capable of giving her what she needed? What if he didn't understand what love truly meant for her kind? "I don't know what to say," Leo admitted, his voice low. "I want to help you, Elira. But this whole thing, it's beyond me. Love isn't something you can just give someone because they ask for it. It's something that happens naturally over time. And I'm not sure if that's something I can offer you." Elira's eyes softened, but there was no hint of anger or frustration. She seemed to understand, perhaps more than he did. "I understand your doubts," she said quietly. "This is not easy, but it is not just about physical touch. It is about connecting. Truly connecting with someone on a level that goes beyond the surface. It is about sharing your heart, your soul. Without that, I cannot regain my strength." Leo looked at her, his mind torn. He had always believed in practical things, things that made sense, things that could be seen and measured. But Elira's words made him question everything he thought he knew. Could love really be so powerful? Could it truly give someone the strength they needed to survive, to thrive? That night, after Elira had gone to bed, Leo sat alone by the fire. His thoughts were tangled, his mind struggling to make sense of everything. He had never been in love before, never truly felt that kind of deep connection with another person. He didn't know what it meant to give someone his heart, to offer them that kind of bond. But the more he thought about Elira, about her gentle nature and her vulnerability, the more he felt something stir inside him. Was this what love was supposed to feel like? The next morning, Leo woke up early, the weight of the decision heavy on his chest. He knew what he needed to do. He had to make a choice, not just for Elira, but for himself. He couldn't keep avoiding the truth of what was happening between them. There was something real here, something powerful. And if he wanted to help her, if he wanted to give her the strength to return to her people, he had to face his own fears and doubts. When Elira came down to the main room, Leo was waiting for her. His heart was racing as he looked at her, unsure of what to say, but knowing he had to speak. "Elira," he began, his voice steady but unsure, "I can't promise you everything. I can't promise that I'll know exactly what to do or that I'll be able to love you the way you need. But I can promise that I'm willing to try. I'm willing to give this a chance, if you'll let me." Elira's eyes widened, a small spark of hope flickering in them. She stepped closer, her voice soft, but filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Leo. That is all I ask. We will take this one step at a time, together." As they stood there, something shifted between them. It wasn't just a promise, but the beginning of something deeper. Leo wasn't sure what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain. This journey, whatever it was, had only just begun. The days after Leo's promise were filled with a quiet anticipation. He and Elira spent more time together, talking about everything and nothing, getting to know each other in ways Leo never imagined. They sat by the fire, shared meals, and even laughed, though there was still a sense of distance between them. Elira was strong, but her fragility was never far from Leo's mind. He knew she was still struggling with her true purpose, with the love she needed to return to her people. Leo's mind was a storm of confusion. He had agreed to try, to see where this connection could lead, but deep down, he wasn't sure if he was ready for what Elira needed from him. Every time she spoke about love, about claiming her, something inside him recoiled, unsure of how to fully give himself to her. But the more he got to know her, the more the doubts faded. Elira wasn't just an alien to him. She was a person, someone who had faced hardships, who needed him in ways he couldn't fully understand. But the world had a way of throwing obstacles in the path of even the most carefully laid plans. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast a soft orange glow across the forest, the sound of something distant reached Leo's ears. It was faint, at first, like a hum in the distance, but it grew louder, more defined. Elira, who had been sitting quietly by the window, her gaze fixed on the darkening sky, suddenly stood up, her body tense. "Something's coming," she whispered, her voice sharp, urgent. Leo's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? Is it your people?" Elira's face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. "I don't know, but I sense danger. We need to hide." Leo didn't hesitate. He grabbed Elira's arm and guided her toward the back of the cabin, where the old cellar door was hidden beneath the floorboards. The hum had now turned into a series of sharp mechanical sounds, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to tremble slightly. Leo's pulse raced. Who could it be? Had Elira's people found her? The thought of her being taken away was unbearable, but even more terrifying was the possibility that they might come to take her by force, before she could complete the bond she needed. "Elira, what's happening?" Leo asked, his voice strained as he helped her down into the cellar. The small room was cold, the air damp, but it was their best chance at hiding. The walls were thick, the windows small, and there were no other entrances. "I don't know," Elira replied, shaking her head. "But I can feel them. It's not just my people. There's something else. Something dangerous." Leo closed the cellar door behind them, the darkness pressing in on them. His heart beat in his chest like a drum, and for the first time in days, he felt truly afraid. His instincts told him that whatever was coming, they weren't prepared for it. Minutes passed in silence, the only sound being the occasional creak of the cabin's wooden beams. Leo watched Elira as she stood in the shadows, her eyes closed, her lips moving in silent prayer, or perhaps a plea to her people. He couldn't tell. Suddenly, the door to the cabin slammed open with a force that sent a jolt through the air. Elira's eyes snapped open, and she looked at Leo with a mix of fear and determination. "They found us," she whispered, voice tight. Leo's mind raced. What could they do now? How could they fight back against an enemy they couldn't even see? He knew he had to protect Elira, but he also knew that he couldn't do it alone. The only way they had a chance was if he trusted her completely, if he embraced the bond between them fully. "We need to go," Leo said, his voice firm. "Now." Elira nodded, her expression serious. She stepped closer to him, her movements swift and precise. "There's a way out of here," she said. "Follow me." Elira led Leo through the small, dimly lit cellar. She reached a hidden panel in the corner, and with a quiet grunt of effort, opened it to reveal a narrow tunnel. It was dark, and the air smelled musty, but it was their only escape route. "Stay close," she instructed, her voice low but steady. Leo followed her, the tunnel's narrow walls pressing in on him as they moved forward. They emerged outside the cabin and found themselves on the edge of the forest, the night air cool against their skin. "Where are we going?" Leo asked, his eyes darting nervously through the trees, searching for any sign of danger. Elira paused for a moment, her gaze scanning the area. "I know a place," she said. "A safe place. But we have to move quickly." The sounds of footsteps crunching on the leaves reached Leo's ears. He turned, his heart racing. Figures emerged from the shadows, tall, cloaked beings with glowing red eyes. Leo's breath caught in his throat. They weren't human. "Elira," Leo said, his voice trembling. "What are they?" "Enemies," Elira replied, her voice colder now, filled with a power Leo hadn't heard before. "They are here to stop me from returning home." but they can't stop us. Not if we stand together." Leo clenched his fists, adrenaline surging through his veins. There was no turning back now. He had promised to help Elira, and he wasn't about to let anyone take her from him. "Stay close," Elira whispered as they began to move deeper into the woods, the shadowy figures trailing behind them. Leo's thoughts were in chaos, but there was one thing he knew for sure. He would do anything to keep Elira safe, no matter what it took. The forest was dark, the shadows stretching long and deep as Elira and Leo moved swiftly through the trees. Leo's heart raced with every step. He could feel the presence of the mysterious figures behind them, following, stalking. The only thing keeping him calm was Elira. She seemed to know where she was going, her movements confident, her eyes sharp with focus. Leo wasn't sure how long they had been running, but the sounds of their pursuers grew louder, the crunch of footsteps behind them echoing through the quiet night. The air was thick with tension, every rustling leaf making his nerves tighten further. "How much farther?" Leo asked, his voice strained as he glanced over his shoulder, half expecting the cloaked figures to appear at any moment. "Not far," Elira replied, her voice steady despite the danger. She didn't slow her pace, moving with an almost unnatural ease through the thick underbrush. "Stay close." Leo's legs ached, but he pushed forward. The path through the forest seemed endless, winding and twisting in ways that made it difficult for him to keep track of where they were going. But Elira's determination kept him moving, her strength and confidence inspiring him to push through the fear that threatened to swallow him. Suddenly, Elira stopped. She turned to Leo, her eyes intense, and for a moment, Leo felt like the world had paused. The only sound was the heavy breathing between them, the tension hanging thick in the air. "We need to talk," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper, "about what's coming next." Leo's heart skipped a beat. He knew this conversation was inevitable, but the weight of it still made him uneasy. He wasn't ready for what Elira was about to say, not sure if he even understood the gravity of the situation they were in. "What do you mean?" Leo asked, trying to steady his voice. "I thought we were just running." Elira stepped closer to him, her expression serious, almost solemn. "We can't keep running forever, Leo. These people will never stop coming for me. They'll follow us to the ends of the earth if they have to. We're at a crossroads, and I need you to understand something." Leo's pulse quickened. "What are you talking about?" "I've always known that to return to my people, I need your love," Elira said, her voice full of conviction. "But it's not just about me. It's about you too. I need you to decide if you can truly give me what I need, not just for my sake, but for yours as well." Leo was silent for a moment, his mind spinning. He had been trying so hard to understand Elira's world, her needs, but now it felt like he was being asked to make a choice that was far bigger than anything he had imagined. He had agreed to help her, but now, the question was no longer just about helping someone in need. It was about his own heart, his own capacity for love. "Elira, Leo's voice faltered. "I don't know if I can give you what you're asking. Love is not something that happens overnight. I've never felt anything like what you're talking about. And now, with all this happening, I'm not sure if I'm even capable of giving you what you need." Elira's eyes softened, but there was no trace of disappointment in her gaze. Instead, there was understanding. She reached out and placed a hand on Leo's arm, her touch gentle but firm. "I know it's difficult," she said softly, "but this is not about perfection. It's about the choice to care, to be vulnerable, to trust. You don't have to have all the answers. What matters is whether you can open your heart enough to see that we can face whatever comes together. I believe in us." Leo looked down at her hand on his arm, the warmth of her touch sending a rush of conflicting emotions through him. He had never allowed himself to be this vulnerable with anyone. And now, faced with the weight of Elira's words, the question of love felt heavier than ever before. "I want to help you," Leo said finally, his voice steadying. I want to protect you, but I don't know if I can give you what you need." Elira gave him a small smile, a smile full of tenderness and hope. "Leo, sometimes love isn't about grand gestures. It's about being there for someone, about sharing the moments that matter, no matter how small. It's about being willing to try, even when it's hard." Leo's heart pounded in his chest. He wasn't sure if he was ready for what Elira was asking, but the connection between them was undeniable. As much as he tried to deny it, he cared about her, more than he had cared about anyone in a long time. "I don't know if I'm ready," he admitted, his voice soft. "But I want to try. For you." Elira's expression softened even more, her eyes shining with gratitude. "That's all I can ask for," she whispered. Just then, a rustling noise broke the silence. Leo's heart jumped into his throat as the cloaked figures appeared in the distance. They were closer than ever, their dark forms emerging from the trees like shadows, their glowing red eyes piercing through the darkness. "They're here," Elira said, her voice suddenly cold with determination. "We have no time to waste." Leo's heart raced. The moment of choice had come. There was no more running. He had to stand by Elira now, no matter what. "I'm with you," Leo said, his voice firm. "Let's face this together." Elira nodded, a spark of fierce resolve in her eyes. Together. And with that, they turned to face the figures approaching them. The final test of their bond about to unfold. Leo didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time, he felt ready to confront whatever was coming. The air was thick with tension as Leo and Elira stood side by side, facing the group of cloaked figures that had been following them through the forest. The figures moved slowly, their red eyes glowing in the dark like embers in a fire. Leo could feel his heart pounding in his chest, his body tensed for whatever might come next. Elira stood beside him, her posture steady and confident, but Leo could see the worry in her eyes. She had been through so much already, and now, the moment of truth had arrived. Whatever was happening here, whatever these figures were, it was clear that they had one goal: to stop Elira from completing her journey, from returning home. "Who are they?" Leo whispered, his voice low, but filled with concern. Elira's gaze never left the approaching figures. "They are part of my people, but not the ones who would welcome me back. They are enemies, rebels who wish to prevent me from completing my mission. They believe that I should not return, that I am too weak, too vulnerable." Leo's mind raced. He had no idea what to do. These figures weren't just threats to Elira. They were also a threat to everything she had told him. They were standing in the way of her returning home, of her regaining her strength, of fulfilling her purpose. The weight of the situation pressed heavily on his shoulders. He had made a promise to Elira to help her, but how could he face these enemies, especially when he still didn't fully understand the power of the bond they were forming? The figures were closing in now, and Leo knew they didn't have much time. He turned to Elira, his heart heavy with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. "What do we do?" Elira turned to him, her eyes softening for a moment. But there was a fire behind them now, a strength Leo hadn't seen before. "There is only one way to defeat them," she said, her voice steady. "I need you, Leo. I need your heart, your love, not just your protection. Only by claiming me with love can I regain my full power. Without it, we have no chance." Leo blinked, the words settling over him like a weight. "Claim you? How? What does that mean exactly?" "It means that you must open your heart to me completely," Elira explained, her voice soft but urgent. "It's not just about being here or protecting me. It's about being vulnerable, about truly letting go and trusting that our bond is stronger than anything they can throw at us." Leo's breath caught in his throat. This wasn't something he had ever experienced, not in the way Elira was describing it. Love, true love, wasn't something he had been prepared for. But as he looked into her eyes, saw the trust and determination in them, he realized that this was more than just a choice between him and her. It was a choice between fear and hope, between doubt and faith. "I don't know if I can do this," Leo said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "I've never felt what you're asking for. I don't know how to love you in the way you need." Elira reached out, placing a hand on his chest. "I know it's hard," she said gently, "but love is not a destination. It's a journey. It's not something that happens all at once. It's something we create together in every moment. And right now, we are creating it. We are stronger than they think." Leo looked at her, her soft blue eyes filled with trust. Something inside him shifted. He felt his heart beating faster, felt the deep connection that had been growing between them since the moment they met. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but he knew one thing for sure. He cared about her more than he had ever cared about anyone. And if this was what she needed, he was willing to try. Without saying another word, Leo stepped closer to Elira, his body almost trembling with the force of his emotions. He reached out, cupping her face in his hands, and for a moment, everything else faded away. The threat of the figures, the uncertainty of the future, it all melted into the background. "Elira," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "I don't know if this is the love you need, but I'm here. I'm with you, always." As he spoke the words, Elira's eyes softened, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you for trusting me." And then, in that moment, everything changed. The bond between them that had been growing, slowly and steadily, suddenly flared to life. It was as if the air itself shifted, a quiet energy radiating from them both. Leo felt it, the warmth, the power, the deep connection that was now woven between them. The figures in the forest froze. Leo could feel their presence, but it no longer felt threatening. It was as if the power between him and Elira had created a barrier, a shield that they couldn't penetrate. Elira's strength surged, her posture shifting from one of vulnerability to one of quiet, unshakable confidence. The leader of the cloaked figures stepped forward, his glowing red eyes narrowing. "You think you can stop us with mere emotions?" he sneered, his voice cold and mocking. Elira stood tall beside Leo, her hand still in his. "You underestimate us," she said, her voice filled with newfound strength. "Love is not weakness. It is power. And with it, I will return home. You cannot stop me." The figures took a step back, uncertainty flickering in their eyes for the first time. Elira's power was palpable now, radiating from her in waves. Leo felt it too, the strength that had always been there, now unlocked, aided by the bond they had shared. With a final defiant glance, the cloaked figures retreated, disappearing into the darkness of the forest. Leo's breath caught in his throat, and for a moment, he was sure he had imagined the entire thing. But as he looked at Elira, her eyes glowing with the power of their connection, he knew it was real. She turned to him, her smile soft but full of gratitude. "Thank you, Leo," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "Together, we can face anything." Leo smiled back, his heart full of warmth. "We're not done yet," he said, his voice steady. "But whatever comes next, we'll face it together." And for the first time, Leo knew that he had made the right choice. The love he had given was not just for Elira, it was for them both. And with that love, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. The quiet of the forest had returned. The sounds of the cloaked figures, the tension, and the fear all seemed to vanish into the night, leaving behind a strange sense of calm. Elira and Leo stood side by side, their hands still clasped, their hearts beating in sync. The bond between them had grown stronger than either of them could have imagined, and now they were finally free from the immediate danger. But the journey ahead of them was just beginning. Leo looked at Elira, her face glowing in the soft light of the moon. She looked different, stronger, more alive. He could feel the energy radiating from her, the power that had been unlocked when they shared their love. It was as if the very air around them had shifted, and for the first time since they met, Leo felt like he understood the depth of what Elira had been telling him all along. "You're different now," Leo said softly, his voice filled with awe. "I can feel it. You're stronger." Elira smiled, her eyes bright with gratitude, and something else, something deeper. "I am. You gave me what I needed, Leo. The love I required to regain my strength, to be able to return home. But it's more than that. It's not just power, it's connection. We are connected now, in a way that transcends everything else." Leo nodded, still trying to grasp the full weight of what had just happened. "I never thought I could love someone like that," he admitted. "Not until I met you." Elira stepped closer to him, her hand resting gently on his chest. "Love isn't about understanding everything at once. It's about growing together, learning and accepting each other, no matter what." For a moment, neither of them said anything. The only sound was the soft rustling of leaves in the wind. Leo could feel the weight of the moment, the realization of everything they had been through, and everything that lay ahead. He wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time, he didn't feel afraid of it. Elira was with him. Together, they could face anything. "I don't know what's next for us," Leo said, his voice full of uncertainty, but also hope. "But I know I want to be with you. Whatever happens, I don't want to face it alone." Elira's eyes softened as she reached up to touch his cheek, her fingers gentle and reassuring. "You won't be alone," she said. "We'll face it together, no matter where we go, no matter what we do." Leo felt a sense of peace settle over him. He had never been a man of many words, but in that moment, he knew that Elira's presence, her love, was all he needed. They had both been through so much, and yet it had brought them to this place, this new beginning. A new chapter that neither of them had expected, but one that they were both willing to embrace. As they stood there in the forest, the air still and calm, Elira spoke again. "I think it's time for me to return home, Leo. To my people." Leo felt a pang in his chest. He didn't want to let her go. He had just begun to understand everything about her, and now she was talking about leaving. But he knew, deep down, that this was something she had to do. It was her journey, and he could never hold her back. "I understand," he said quietly, his voice soft but steady. "But I want to come with you, if you'll have me." Elira's gaze softened, and for a moment there was a flicker of something in her eyes, something that made Leo's heart swell. "You're already part of me, Leo. Wherever I go, you'll be with me." The weight of her words sank into Leo's heart. It was more than just a promise. It was a declaration of their bond, something that went beyond anything he had ever known. Together, they were stronger than either of them could have imagined. Elira took his hand, her grip firm and warm. "Let's go," she said, her voice filled with resolve. "It's time to face my people, but with you by my side, I know I can do it." Leo squeezed her hand, the weight of the decision settling in. There were so many things they didn't know, so many uncertainties ahead, but one thing was clear: they were in this together, and that was enough for him. The path back to Elira's people would be long, and there would be challenges along the way. But Leo no longer feared what the future held. He had been given a gift, one that he couldn't have expected, one that was more powerful than anything he had ever experienced. And now he was ready to face whatever came next. As they walked together, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, casting a golden glow over the world around them. The forest, once dark and foreboding, now seemed full of possibility. With Elira by his side, Leo felt as if anything was possible. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be trials and hardships. But Leo knew one thing for certain. Together, they could face anything. They had already conquered the most difficult challenge, their own fears, their own doubts, and had come out stronger for it. Now they were ready for whatever came next. And as the two of them walked toward the unknown, hand in hand, Leo couldn't help but smile. For the first time, he felt truly alive, knowing that the journey they had started together was just the beginning.